What is up, everyone? Welcome on into our second Cold Weather Bats Roundtable. We have a partial squad to start. We will have the remaining staff joining in just a little bit. We'll explain why as we begin, and we're excited to have a special guest. We have Blake Ilitch here as well. We're excited to have him join for what should be a great conversation, really about the state of high school baseball here in Michigan. So today we are going to take a deeper dive not only into the rankings, but some of the players, some of the trends that we've seen across the state, and maybe where the game is heading. We'll share some insight, talk some player development, things like that. You'll see we got Griffin Green and Dan Griesbaum Jr. here to start. So, guys, first off, welcome back to another roundtable. And Blake, thanks for taking some time to join us this evening.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, just happy to be here. Yeah.
You look thrilled, by the way. Like, you look absolutely thrilled. Listen, Blake, we appreciate having you on, man. We appreciate you coming on, dude. It's gonna be a hell of a night. A straw hat. Can anyone take a notice? Look at the straw hat. Okay, I wanted to set the tone.
Straw hat is good.
Hey, it's week 2. We wanted to get after it. All right. Dan has his slick back hair. Right. We're working with the straw hat.
The opposite of a straw hat.
I love it.
So we are doing it, I guess, not different, but we've expanded a little bit. So before, on our last live stream, we were strictly on YouTube, and today we have expanded. I've checked already, and it looks like we are up and running on both Twitter or X. I mean, Blake, what do the kids call it now? I don't even know any longer.
Yeah, I mean Twitter, X, either way. Yeah, no, either or, it doesn't really matter.
So I see that we're over there, and I assume probably still I feel so old talking like this. Everyone is probably seeing us as well over on Instagram Live. So we are on both spaces there. We are also joined with the Blackstone Cam from Griffin up here. What we got on the menu for tonight?
It's just called a hodgepodge type of menu tonight, boys. We got a little ground beef, we got a little eggs, got a little sausage, hash browns. We're going everywhere tonight. I mean, it's just we're meal prepping a little bit. We're making a little dinner. The fiance's inside; she's all upset because it's 9:00 at night and we haven't ate yet. But that's what you got to do when you're coaching, baby. That's what you got to do. You got to learn how to adapt.
I'm sure she's thrilled that you're on a podcast while she's waiting for you to cook dinner.
She would hate me forever, Dan. It's all right though. We're gonna get through it. It's a little adversity. We talk about adversity on the Bald Banter Show, right? Tune in whenever we record. But hey, we're consistent. We're consistent with our efforts, and we like to be consistent with our product.
So I think where we should start is, 3 of you guys are all at 3 different high school programs. You all played today. Would love to hear your insights of how today's games went. I think we really need to start on our top right corner here with Cranbrook Kingswood and the Fighting Griffin Greens to start.
Listen, in all seriousness, Cranbrook, we took over a program last year, right? That we had talent, we had younger talent coming in. We had a good group of seniors that kind of helped us pave the way, and going in the right direction. And the beautiful thing at Cranbrook, man, is we have the freedom to kind of take the program wherever we want it, and we want to do it the right way. We want to do it, we're playing the long game, right? Kind of pause for a second there. Excuse me. But we're playing that a little bit of a long game because we understand that it's going to take time to build, right? It was a program that had a great foundation with their head coach, Jack Sanders, who I think coached for 80-plus years, it feels like, right? And then they had a few other coaches, here and there the last few years. But, we're excited about our young core. We're excited about, the guys, the 3 seniors that we have this year. And it's been fun, man. But you guys know as well as I do, when you rely a lot on the younger guys, you never know what you're going to get, and it's a little bit of a roller coaster, but it's been a lot of fun. We've been super excited the entire year. We have some growing pains. We've played some good games, but, we're starting to get around the right track and we're excited about it.
Blake or Dan, whoever wants to take a stab next.
I'll save Blake for last because I'm sure he's the most. But yeah, Grosse Pointe South, we're staying relatively hot. We're 22-4 now. Beat a league rival, L'Anse Creuse North, today 10-0, which is a little bit of a deceiving score. It was 3-0 most of the game, and then we broke away in the sixth. But we've got our 4 losses were against impressive teams. I mean, just looking at the wider scope, Dakota is a definite state champion contender. I mean, they're a good deep team that really made a statement last week against Sterling Heights Stevenson with a sweep, of another ranked team, really with games that were not close. And then Anchor Bay beat us 2 out of 3. We're tied with them for the league right now. The big takeaway from that series, I think, was definitely Ty Finkbeiner's legit. I mean, he's very, certainly one of the top small handful of pitchers in the state this year. The unique thing about him is he really shut us down primarily with the 4-seam fastball, and it was just special rotation, a ball that just had a lot of life on it up in the zone, and hard to square up. I mean, by the standards of a 4-seam fastball, very, very hard to square up. And he's one to keep an eye on, not just at the University of Michigan, but on draft day, and to see what happens with him, I think. And then we took a loss this past Saturday to Rochester Adams, who's a very good team. I mean, they just pound the ball up and down the lineup. I think they're very much a contender to get to the Final Four. Great lineup. The younger Waters kid, is it Reno or Rhino? I forget. I think it's Reno, right?
Rhino.
Rhino, is it Rhino? Okay. I'm thinking of Bino. Maybe I'm trying to make it rhyme with Bino. I don't know.
Wild pronunciation.
Yeah. Well, it's his brother's Bino, though, right?
Yeah.
So I guess that's why I'm trying to make it rhyme. But anyhow, regardless, he was solid against us, throwing multiple pitches for strikes, and did his job. He's another good one. So I mean, Adams is a small handful of teams that has a chance to win the thing this year too. So we're having a good year, but we lost to some good teams too, and it's there's a lot of teams out there that are contending.
Brother Ice here, we've been good. 13-10 right now. I think as a team we have a lot of potential. I'd say without a doubt, I think we have the most talent in the state, arguably, I'd say. So it's really just putting all the pieces together, right? I'd say we have six returners, right? So you got a lot of new guys coming in, a lot of freshmen, who have talent as well. It's just, but they've never played a varsity inning. So, it's just coming together as a team, right? And making those guys feel comfortable in different places and different positions, right? Trying different things throughout the season, right? Seeing where people fit, right? Because last year we learned, right? You can go 43-win season and still lose in the final, right? So it's figuring out where your pieces go, trying new arms, seeing who could throw, right? Really just all those things. And then come playoff time, right, you have to be your best self without a doubt and get it done then. But that's the really biggest takeaway. We're not necessarily throwing our aces the entire game to try to win every single game in the playoffs, right? Me and Cole aren't going out there 80 to 100 pitches, right, every single game. We're alternating pitches that way, or pitchers, that way we could see different arms, and then we could also, save our bullets as well there. But making that playoff run, right, you have to be at your best, without a doubt. And just really just coming together as a team. We've learned a lot from both the wins and the losses we've had. So now it's just putting it together, coming down this Catholic League playoff run and into the state playoff run.
Yeah, I think you mentioned something that I had mentioned a couple of weeks back on the show. I think, Rice has dropped some games this year, but I think the thing that's smart is Coach Riker, Coach Steele, they're not, burning out either of those two horses, you or Cole Duham. The idea is to have you guys healthy at the end of May, early June. And as long as the two guys at the top are healthy, you guys certainly have a chance to run all the way through the state tournament.
Yeah, no, for sure. I just definitely think you have to put health before, winning, especially in, the regular season, matters in the playoffs, right? But
yeah, I mean, the way that the Michigan State playoffs are set up right now, there's really no advantage to having a great regular season. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, we all have goals. We want to win our league. You guys want to get to the Catholic League playoffs and have a chance to win it once you're in that Final Four of the Catholic League. But in all reality, it's not like we're fighting for seeding or something like that. The idea is just to be playing your best baseball at the end.
Yeah, no, it's the 3 games you have in the Catholic League, and then we have a play-in this year, so we have 8 for the state final. But it's just doing those best for those 11 games and firing on all cylinders.
So, kind of before we dive a little bit further into the rankings, if you have been tuning into our last one or have followed Cold Weather Bats, you'll notice Brandon Justice is not on just yet. We had a very fun technical issue with our rankings that got produced, and we're all set and done. And, well, they all got erased. So he is currently locked into his wherever he does all of his data collecting, and he's redoing these rankings. I'm watching it live right here, and he is plugging away. So Brandon will be on in ideally the next handful of minutes. Sounds like we are going to be having Nick joining us as well, potentially. Who knows? He had a fun game with Griff with Cranbrook, so who knows what's going on there. But
yeah, but I showed it. Notice the
that?
level of commitment. Notice the level of commitment right here. Okay,
Definite.
We show up for the people.
Definite level of commitment there. So
Rube, I don't know where you want to take this, but I just want to. I want to ask Blake, like, when you're committed, right, to go play college baseball, right, and there is that conversation of health, right, and making sure you're healthy for, pro ball, college ball, wherever you end up being in the fall, right? How is that communication with Riker and Steele and all those guys, to try to put, obviously the best interest for the team, right, because we know you're a team guy, but also trying to balance, hey, like, I'm not trying to throw, 300 pitches a week. What were those conversations like?
Yeah, it's really just find the middle with it, right? You have to win with your team, but you also have to, do it the right way and build up the right way to playoffs. That way, you're not going out every single game and throwing 120 pitches, right? So it's just finding a middle and really just communicating with, Coach Riker and Coach Steele, about what the objective is. What are we trying to get done here? And really just communicating with them about that stuff. Really just communicating and finding a middle with it. I'd really just say that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And one more thing, what young guys have surprised you this year?
Young guys, I'd say Jackson Hafner, has been a big step up at third base. He's been swinging it in our lineup really, really well. And then, Max Nishoff, I think he's batting 420 or something like that, 430, 420 right now on the year. He's a freshman. He's a switch hitter. Big time talent there. Really knows how to put the ball in play and just kind of, really be aggressive. As a player, it's tough, especially as a freshman coming in, to 1-1 baseball. Where you have higher odds to strike out and get out, to put the ball in play on a consistent basis, is pretty impressive. We also have some arms, as well. Cam Bodges, good arm. But we have a lot of guys, a lot of freshmen coming in, that may fit into different places. It's just figuring out, who fits where. And just letting them roll.
Now, Blake, you personally, I think, have, kind of a unique background in that you went through sort of several different eras, so to speak, of your career, coming up in Grosse Pointe, playing in the Caesar system a little bit. And then you spent a little bit of time at IMG as well. And then, over at Liggett and now at at Rice. Can you lend some perspective maybe on what that did for your career, just as far as different places, different voices, different coaches, things like that?
Yeah, the biggest thing I'd say is just learning from everywhere and learning from everybody, taking little bits and pieces from everywhere. Learning a little bit, with Coach Samini over at Liggett, going to IMG, in the 8th grade and, learning a little bit of stuff in, Bradenton, Florida. So just taking bits and pieces, then coming to Rice, learning from Coach Steele, learning from Coach Riker, just taking bits and pieces, and taking everything together and making it work for you, trying things, and then seeing if they work. If they work, great, keep them, really just stuff like that. And I really think it makes it, it gives you an advantage in that regard.
What was it like just, going down to Bradenton at a pretty young age, just not even so much the baseball part, but just the, sort of a college-like experience almost at that age? What was that like?
It was definitely independent, which I was independent as an 8th grader. I only went for a semester, and the second semester I actually homeschooled. But no, in the semester I learned a lot. You're learning about kind of everything. You're basically being almost a college baseball player there as an 8th grader. You have
right.
your own dorm, your own, living, the whole thing. You're living on your own. But you just learn a lot from like the lifting stuff, the throwing, just taking bits and pieces, from it. Yeah.
I can imagine. I
Yeah.
can imagine. I think, something personally that I think of when I follow your career, as I had the good fortune of working, under your grandpa for a little bit, or Dedo, as you would call him, and I know how passionate he was about the game of baseball. And I'm sure you, like I, really wish he was here to see, you as you go through this time in your life. If he were around to talk to you about this, what do you think, what type of advice do you think he might have for you?
He'd probably just say, stay positive, keep working hard and, chase your dream. But yeah, no, he's just as baseball crazy as I am. And I remember when I was growing up, especially, just how crazy he was about it. He'd be at every single game, for the Tigers game, stuff like that. But yeah, no, he's definitely just as crazy and, works like an animal and, hard worker. I definitely say types of things, he'd say to, go after and chase.
Well, I definitely see some similarities there. The way that when he was, a young man, not your age so much, but a young man, and he was building his business, and the passion that he put into that, I certainly see a lot of that same work ethic with you, and same passion with you as you build, not a business, but building a career and the business of baseball for yourself. And it certainly seems like that hard work's been paying off for you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, no, definitely a role model for me, as I, continue and go into my career and, as a person, who I am. That's just, somebody I always look up to and, try to admire and try to, model my life off of, and look up to, really.
Oh, no, nobody better. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. Thank you.
I guess what we'll do now is we'll do a quick check-in with Griff. How's the food coming?
Sensational. I mean, I burnt the hand a little bit. I don't know if you guys saw the reaction. Damn near almost had a little tears in there.
I saw a little bit of something there.
It hurt so bad. I went to go scoop the eggs, and I didn't have the right scooper. I was just trying to Jimmy wig this thing, and I literally went in a little too close to the Blackstone. Dude, I'm hurting right now.
I'll be honest, I wasn't watching you because if I try to watch you, I get nauseous.
It's not me.
Just the way that you're moving around. Yeah, that's like I don't know. It's like being on a roller coaster trying to watch you.
I just need to be better. At the end of the day, I just need to be better. Okay, just give me like Blake. If I threw harder, we'd be all right. But hey, Blake, are you excited for Ole Miss next year?
Yeah, I'm very excited. I've recently been down there, this past fall, summer. It's a great place. I'm excited to be down there. Especially where it's gonna be nice. It's gonna be warm. It's definitely a place I want to be. Getting getting to start head on school. It'll be good. No, I'm excited.
No, that's awesome, man.
I mean, obviously, you and I think at least 3 or 4 other pitchers in Michigan are certainly guys that are going to be part of the draft conversation.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, going into the draft as far as, obviously you've got a great option at Ole Miss, and what are your thoughts heading into the draft, and what would it take to have you forego that time at Ole Miss and potentially just become a professional right away?
Yeah, I think either way is great. Obviously, I have the goal to get drafted and go there. That's definitely a goal of mine. I'd definitely, say I'd want to get drafted, but I think either way is great. Both options are awesome, and just, in my career, either way in a positive and healthy manner, just continuing, to have fun and just, try to succeed, really. But it's really just kind of staying in the present for me as much as possible with the season. Really taking it day by day. There's a lot of pressure in the season, and you just have to take it day by day and just have fun with it. That's the biggest thing I really take away. Having fun and just staying in the moment. Keeping things positive, keeping things fun. Because normally that's when you're at your best and you're most confident. And you have the feel for the baseball, and you really just have control over the game. That's the biggest thing I'd say. With it all kind of blends together, but really just those key mental mindset things.
Absolutely. Griff, did we lose you there for a second?
Yeah, we had to go. To the laptop. I was giving myself a little bit of a panic attack because I was like, phone was gonna die. Didn't know what was going on.
I don't know if we had an egg break or what happened there, but
dude, it's a disaster. I'm not even gonna go outside until we're done with this.
Perfect. Well, Blake, if you don't mind, a couple other of the best teams in Michigan are right in your division there in the Catholic League with Orchard Lake St. Mary's and De La Salle. What are your thoughts on those 2 teams?
I think they're great teams. I wouldn't hold anything against them. They both have good pitching, good hitting. You have Hudson, Bruce Devitt on the St. Mary's, and you got Tulivin, as their main arm. I think that's a great team. I think De La Salle, coach under Samini, I think Samini's a good coach, and he does know how to win for sure. And I think both teams.
Griff,
are great.
your thoughts on that?
Griff's shaking his head already.
Listen, you just had to throw that in there because we were talking about it before we went live. Okay, this guy down the bottom left just had to throw it in there. Right, I see where he's at.
I'm gonna find a way to bring up Samini in a roundabout way every time that we have a show, just to.
It haunts me. It haunts me. Blake, quick backstory: I lost to Samini 3 years in a row when he was at Liggett. Yeah, it was, dude. It was. We're not going to go into it. We went into it on the first show.
What's your all-time record against him?
It's 0 and something.
0-3, baby. 0-3 because I transferred in and my sophomore year to Foley, and we lost every single year to Liggett. I forget what the kid they threw, but he carved us every single year. It was the most frustrating time of my life, and I'm glad we can relive it. Huh?
Well, do you remember what year? I can maybe tell you the pitcher.
I mean, dude, I'm much older.
I think it was
14 to 16. I know the back of my head.
I grew up watching them. Was it Alec Azar?
Probably Alec Azar. Yeah.
Yeah, no, Azar. So Azar made the play. He was playing second base. He wasn't pitching. It was a kid who he was thinking about going to High Point back in the day.
Was Dar on those teams? Alec Dar.
Oh, I remember him.
Might have been. I forget the guy's name. I never remembered his name. But he was the same age as Remember Cipriano, Joe Sip?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, he was the same. I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I said Anthony George. Was that name his time?
George. Yeah, he was good too.
Probably right-hander, 86, 87, nothing crazy, but just threw a cutter.
All the Liggett guys all of them prior to Blake were like 85, 86 with a couple of pitches. They were all in.
It just, dude, I remember, we faced Dazon Cole, if you remember that name.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah.
Right? Like Dazon was 94, 96 against us. We beat those guys 10-0.
Right.
Right? Like it was just, we had a really good group, and except every single time we played Liggett. Like, dude, we were like 35-1 going in to play Liggett. Lost every single time. But having Samini on the show last week, which he's probably watching this, just laughing, right? It still gives me nightmares.
Oh man, that's funny.
All right, we are just.
Is Justice ready, or what are we doing?
We are. He is getting it done, and I am locking everything in right now.
Love that.
So ask about 2 more questions, and then I'll have everything ready.
I love it. So, Blake, are you guys? Who's in first place from the Catholic League? Is it you guys or De La Salle, or who is it?
They got De La Salle and Mary's before us, and then I think we're at the 3 spot right now.
Which is it? Am I the only one who just found out today that the Catholic League championship game is at the PAL?
I knew because we had been hosting it at Jimmy John's Field, but the dates didn't work, so I knew it wasn't at Jimmy John's Field.
I mean, why can't we bring it back to Comerica?
Yeah,
Comerica's the issue. The issue with Comerica is that they have to put a time limit on the game, and they also require having those tarps down on the field when it's a non-MLB game. And
that's crazy.
The Catholic League and really anybody, they just don't want to play a championship type game under those conditions. I mean, the last time they played a Catholic League playoff game there, they hit the 2-hour time limit or whatever. They had to suspend the game and finish it at Catholic Central, and the team that was winning ended up losing. And it was just
that was our game.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Right. Yeah.
That was us against CC. We were actually I think I started this game. It was 2020. Let's see. This past year was 2024. It was 2023, right? We were at Comerica playing Catholic League final or a semi, right? I think I went 5 innings, 1 earned, something along those lines. And we hit a time limit, right? And they said, no, we need to finish the game because I think they made a comeback. I ended up getting pulled in the 5th, and it was like a 9-8 game, and we had like a 9. We had like a.
Did you guys just hop on the bus and go over the CC or what?
Yeah, everybody.
and then CC came back and won, so it was like they're like, we're not doing this anymore.
We went to Warrior Park though. We went to Brother Rice Field.
Oh, was Rice? Okay.
And then we finished for innings, and we ended up losing.
Yeah, just a total momentum change. And
dude, that's dude, you could write a book.
Yeah,
that's absolutely wild.
And that's why I don't know that Comerica Park's the best. I mean, it's obviously a wonderful place to play a game. We just played there on Friday, and it's awesome. I mean, the photo ops and everything, it's incredible. But we played Liggett actually. But you want it to be a game of minimal importance. You don't want that game to be a championship game with time limits and a tarp down on the field and all that stuff. It's just play the fun game.
Dude, when I played, go ahead, Blake.
You have to play with a tarp down on the field.
Yeah, you've probably seen it because they did it for your games too. You may not even have noticed, but they're the first, that 10 feet or whatever right in front of the plate. Yeah. There's like a, I don't know if tarp is the right word, but there's like a green netting that's down on the field. And if you're playing a real game and you're bunting and stuff, and you got to field it off of that, it kind of changes
Dude,
the play.
When I was playing, we never had that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it might be recent, but
it was definitely recent because I remember seeing like a picture or like a video or whatever.
Yeah, Heather Nabosny, the head of groundskeeping, she requires it for all those games. So,
you just name dropping everyone in Comerica. I mean, what's the ticket? Guy's name?
Those are my people. I was there for 15 years every day.
I know, just messing with you. I'm just like, it's just casual, just rolling off the tongue. I'm like, damn, I gotta Google this shit.
Hey, man, you go somewhere every day for 15 years and see if it becomes a habit.
Well, here's an unpopular opinion. I will probably be the one person that's been a coach that would say I'd much rather use that fundraising money that you're using to pay for that to use it for something else and just not play at Comerica.
That's why you're the math guy, Rube. That's why we always have to have one in the group that wrangles
name it.
everyone in, who punches all the numbers, right? Like every team's got to have a team GPA guy, right? You're the team GPA guy.
Hey, I'll take it. I'll save us some dollars. But I mean, guys, we have to stop what we're doing. We got Brandon Justice now finally on. Welcome.
Thanks for
Yeah,
coming,
I've
Brandon.
been putting on a show over here trying to get set up, so that's on me. Apologize for
So
the
we had,
distraction.
I mean, like I said at the beginning, we had technical difficulties. So we are now backing up. We'll go ahead and get right into it, guys. It's going to be a little bit of an abbreviated breakdown tonight. We'll go through them one at a time. Everyone feel free to just give your thoughts. Really, it'll be just open panel. We'll let Brandon rattle through these as we go. We'll throw up our also considered right off the bat. We'll get those right on the screen. Yeah, I'm working over here, guys. We got Lutheran, North, South Lyon, Trenton, Zeeland East, and Detroit Edison. Brandon, I will turn this over to you, and everyone else feel free to throw your thoughts out there.
Yeah, Detroit Edison just keeps beating good teams like at least once, right? I know that they probably don't have the same depth as a lot of these really good teams, but they are at least taking one game from half the teams they play, which is a really tough schedule. So credit where it's due. Wanted to get them in last week, but too many other teams last week. This week we had the room for them and made sense. They had a nice win over a Super 25 team that we'll mention later. Zeeland East 15-5 went 5-0. They've really only had one bad week of baseball all season. You take away that week, they're like undefeated. So still think that team's going to be one of the tougher teams to beat in that division. Trenton, they went 5-0 last week. They lost in extras tonight, but I obviously didn't score that into these rankings, but they lost in 9 innings to Southgate. But 17-3 overall, beat Edsel, Escanaba, and Melvindale. Not a very tough schedule last week, but all the same. South Lyon 15-4 went 3-0 last week, swept Walled Lake Western, and then Lutheran North 16-3 went 5-1 last week. Did split with Liggett, and Liggett's not one of our ranked teams, and that's really like Lutheran North's schedule isn't as heavy as some of the others in the ranking, so that's kind of demoting them a bit. But the record certainly proves that they are a good team. So that's it for also considered.
I would interject that I'm just looking forward to the matchup in the district for Division III when Detroit Edison plays Liggett. I think in the current Division III rankings, I think Liggett's number 1, and I believe Edison's number 3. If I'm, or maybe I think that's the most recent one. But regardless, playing each other in districts will be fun. I know that's happened on a few different occasions, and it's gone either way in the past. But I think that Edison's going to be a handful for Liggett for sure.
Yeah, one of those other things that just sucks about the playoff format. It takes away from the fun of it all, but it's really hard to fix it. Different conversation. We've had it many times, right? So, but that should be a good one.
Definitely.
It always is. All right. Rolling into the next one.
All right, let's go right into it. We will go 25 into 21. Wait, did we just do that?
No, we still also considered.
Sorry.
You're good.
Doing a couple things at once here. 25
Oh,
Detroit
God.
Western, 24 Livonia Franklin, 23 Romeo, 22 Anchor Bay, and 21 Novi.
Yeah, Detroit Western. Again, they're 3-1-1, but similar to Detroit Edison, they schedule really tough. They did take a loss this week to Franklin and tied Livonia Stevenson, also tied Matawan and beat Kaz Tech. So they're 14-6-2 overall, but the schedule is really legit. The only loss they took this week was to a team that's just ahead of them at 24, which is Franklin. They went 3-2 this week, kind of came back down to earth, so they dropped a bit. 16-4 overall, split with Churchill, beat Salem, beat Western International, as we just mentioned, and they also beat Matawan, which is a pretty nice win. Matawan wasn't also considered last week, but took them out. Romeo, 18-4, dropped a little bit, went 3-2 last week, split with Lakeview, took 2 or 3 from Utica Ford. Good team. Still think this is going to be probably a perennial Super 25 team, but probably accurate in the number that they're at as to expectations. I don't know. Dan probably knows more about this team. They're like 18-23 in my opinion throughout the year. I think their ceiling is kind of like in that like sub 15 range, but just my opinion based on what I'm seeing in their scores so far. 22 Anchor Bay, obviously we know close to home, took 2 or 3 from Grosse Pointe South, and we know what they are with Fink on the mound. Ultimately, this is, like I mentioned last week, more of a power ranking than it is a resume ranking. And with Fink on the mound, Anchor Bay can probably beat anybody, I would have to imagine. So 2-1, the record isn't pretty. They're 9-7, but we know the team that they are, and the team that they've been playing like as of recent sure seems to be one of the 25 best teams in the state, if you ask me. 21, Novi, 13-8, dropping a bit. 2-2 last week, split with Plymouth and Salem. Good team with Uli on the mound. There's, again, very similar, and a lot of teams have that guy, by the way. One of them's on the show right now, so you can say that about a lot of teams. But again, Novi with Uli on the mound, extremely difficult to beat. 2-0 last week, though. Or I'm sorry, 2-2 last week, split with Plymouth and Salem. Hard to win series for them right now. Kind of worrisome because, as we know, the playoff format often is contingent on winning 2 games in a day, and they haven't done a whole lot of that this year. So they dropped a bit. And that is it.
Yeah, I would. We already talked about Anchor Bay a little bit, Brandon, before you came on. Everything you said about Fink, certainly true. He's really special. Looking ahead again to districts, a really good potential matchup in that district with Anchor Bay is Anchor Bay against Romeo. That'll be a showdown.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Blake, I wasn't sure if you had a chance to play any of those teams, but if you have any thoughts on them, feel free to chime in as we go along.
Yeah, we really haven't played either of those teams, Anchor Bay or Novi yet. But no, I definitely think those guys are good arms, and can definitely change when they're on the mound, right?
Yeah, I know you guys played a lot of young guys the day you played Western, but how was Western?
Good. Cole didn't really throw it. Cole didn't throw it all, and I totaled up 2 innings. So we didn't really throw our best pitchers in general. But they definitely have 2 arms. I think it's LaCourse, and I forgot the other arm's name, but he's good. He's good too. But I definitely think it'll be a good game for when me and Cole are going the full game.
Cool. All right.
All right, we will go right on into our 20 through 16. 20, we have Heartland. 19, we have Standish Sterling. 18 is Northville. 17 is Byron Center. And 16 is West Bloomfield.
All right, start off the top with Heartland. Took 2 from Canton last week. Didn't really have a great week the week before that, so they were trending down a bit. 13-8-1 overall. Still a really good team. Still a really competitive team. They always are, but they are moving down a bit. Need to see a good week this week. Didn't play many games last week. Took the weekend off. The 2 games they did have, they won though. Standish Sterling, they just keep winning. They're 17-0-1. Obviously, the caveat to that is the strength of schedule. But they did go 4-0 last week. They keep beating teams up. I don't care where you're at. It's always hard to win every game. 18, Northville. They are, I believe, 14-4 overall as of yesterday. 2-2 record last week. They split 2 series, one with Howell and one with Saline. 2 really good teams. 2 respectable opponents. Saline obviously ranked highly in our rankings, so respectable opponent. Northville solid. I think they are what they are in terms of like 15-20. I don't know if that's a team that has what it takes to win a state championship like they did last year, but still outperforming their expectations, I'd say, given what they had to replace. 17, Byron Center had a big week. They just keep winning games. I think they're like 15-2 overall. I messed up writing the record down, so I apologize. But rest assured, Byron Center staying hot. Good ace at the top as well in Payne. 16, West Bloomfield, a team kind of righting their wrongs a bit because they dropped last week pretty severely. I think it was like 11 spots or something. But 11-5, went 4-1 last week. Swept Groves, split with Stony. Sweeping Groves is big for them. Groves has a good ace at the top. It's going to Dayton. And, obviously Slade Moore's Michigan commit for West Bloomfield. And they faced off and, it went one way pretty convincingly with West Bloomfield. So, and they took the 2 others as well. So big week for the Lakers. But that kind of wraps that setup. Who's played who? We play West Bloomfield soon, but we haven't played them yet.
I don't have anything on that grouping.
We've played Heartland. I think we grabbed 2 from them. We beat them. I didn't have too many thoughts. I don't know what their strength is for their schedule generally, but they were okay. I wouldn't say they were a bad team. I wouldn't say they were like unreal, but they were pretty good. They were okay.
New member on the show, Mike.
We have a new member.
Oh, welcome, Luke. Welcome. Wow.
And he's in uniform.
Dude,
In
look at
uniform.
that. See,
Hey,
that's
straight
the
off-
level of
straight off the
commitment we were
bus.
looking for, Blake. Okay.
Comes
We
right
wanted
off the field.
something
Love
unique.
it.
Luke, how we do today, pal? You got me?
Oh, you there, Luke? Oh, it might be frozen.
We'll let him, he
We'll,
can
we'll let him come back in.
we'll let him type in his answers in a little bit. Or maybe grab a whiteboard.
Oh, I don't know.
All right.
How's the Wi-Fi in Bay City?
Connection's never really that good up in mid-Michigan. I remember that from my college days.
Hello.
Oh, we got you now.
There we go.
We're
There
back.
we go.
We're back. Sorry, it's cutting out.
Did you win today?
We split.
With who?
We played a tough Grand Blanc team. We faced Chris Worley. He threw really well today. So split there, lost first one, 2-0, I think. Not many hits today. A lot of small ball being played, but we were able to win that second one. So salvage a split and get ready for Wednesday. Got another game Wednesday.
Well, you guys are good. You guys are good at the small ball. Coach,
Oh, yeah.
Coach McDonald, he likes the small ball.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's definitely that's what we're known for. That's for sure. We love it. And I think that's the big thing is that everyone kind of lives and breathes it. So it's really fun when it's on. But today we were struggling a little bit with it. But we're gonna work towards getting better at it. So yeah, it's fun.
Grand Blanc was a preseason Super 25 team, dropped out, but might creep back in. They've had a couple of big wins over the last couple of weeks. But all right. Well, welcome to the show, Luke. We'll get to Bay City Western shortly. If anybody comes up that you've played, feel free to chime in when we get to that point. But Mike, let's roll into the next.
Yeah, we'll go right into 15-11. That's where we are, correct? Just making sure I'm in the right spot here.
Yep.
Perfect. We'll go 15. We got Dexter. 14, Sterling Heights Stevenson. 13, Celine. 12, we got Brother Rice. And 11, we have St. Mary's.
All right. Now's the fun part, right? All right. Start with Dexter. They moved down a bit, 18-7. They went 2-3 last week. Lost a series 2-3 to Skyline. Split with Novi. Skyline's a tough series loss. Probably could be lower. 18-7 overall, solid, but also you got to look at quality of wins at large there. But still firmly in that 15 to 16 hole as far as the rankings go. Got a big week next week. 14, Sterling Heights Stevenson. I mean, you talk like this might be our biggest dip of the week. 1-3 overall, but really just dominated by Dakota. I don't know if there was like some context I missed there as far as maybe like them having some injuries or something, but I mean, they got beat up bad like 3 times in a row by Dakota and then took the weekend off. So just a bad week overall. So they shot down a bit. 13, Celine. They went 4-1 last week. So they shot up 16-3 overall. Swept Ann Arbor Huron, split with a Super 25 team in Northville. So a really solid week for Celine. They move up. They're 16-3 overall, playing really good ball. At 12, we've got Brother Rice. A loaded week, split with St. Francis and De La Salle. Lost a game to Dakota, and they got swept by Mary's. However, we can talk straight from the horse's mouth and get the word from Blake on that week. Before we do, at 11, St. Mary's. 2 similar records in St. Mary's and Brother Rice. I think 2 very similar stories in terms of the records are tough. They're playing the hardest schedules in the state, in my opinion, and they're playing a lot of games over a week's time, and still probably 2 of the 3 most talented teams in the state overall, I would say, despite the record. And I think that plays much better in June than it does in May and April. So those are my thoughts. But we can just hand it right over to Blake if he wants to give us the story on this week for Brother Rice.
Yeah. With St. Mary's, I'd definitely say we had some, baseball IQ, issues throughout the game. Just the little things, obviously me and Cole, didn't throw those games, against St. Mary's, that's no excuse. But I'd say, it's really just getting those new guys, like I was saying, the guys who haven't played any varsity innings, bringing those guys together, with the returners, right? And coming together as a team, really, we know we have a lot of talent, as a team, so it's really just bringing those guys together, and working together as a team, defensively, offensively, bringing people helping each other out, not thinking we have to do it all ourselves as the returners, but kind of just bringing everybody together, and playing more as a team, I'd say with, our team.
Yeah. I mean, look,
Yeah.
from my point of view, I'm the same way when it comes to that type of stuff. We don't have a lot of depth at Wyandotte, but our top two guys are really, really good. And we know with those two on the mound, if we take those wins and losses to heart, the other ones we take lessons, I think, especially. But like Dan mentioned earlier in the show, I mean, the regular season, whether we like it or not, ultimately it doesn't really matter for anything other than, hey, I won a league, which, again, some leagues get rings, but most don't. So, I mean, at that point, like, how much does it really matter? I think is a great question. But, of course, it matters in terms of the product, what you can take away from it and all that. But what doesn't really matter is the win and loss record. So I get it. And I think everybody here agrees. I mean, like, Dan Griesbaum Sr. has kind of pioneered the whole schedule as many games as humanly possible and play every guy and find out everything, yada, 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 despite the regular season record being what it is this year. Like you always mention on the show, Dan, that you guys will go 18-11, and that's the year you won the state title.
Yeah, I mean, having a good record like we do this year is almost a little bit scary, to be honest with you. I'm like walking around looking for a safe to drop on my head or something. But yeah, I mean, I think we talked earlier in the show before you got on, but Blake and Cole, just having those guys healthy at the end and having plenty of bullets left in the chamber, with those guys, they're going to be ready to roll when it counts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about. Last year we had, 43 wins as a team and only 2 losses, right? We won all those games, and then you come into the final and you come up short by 1. Be devastating. So really just now, figuring out where, guys need to be, and trying guys in different places and just figuring really out your best lineup, defensively, offensively, and as a staff as well. But I'd really just say that with all that.
Yeah, and the fact that's pretty integral to the process. I mean, coaches can believe it all they want, but when the kids are living it out, that's when it really makes an impact. But all right, yeah. Let's run way into the top 10.
Is he on mute or is it just me?
I think you're muted, Mike.
Sorry about that. Why don't we let's just go all the way right 10-1. How about that?
Sounds great.
We'll knock it all out. We'll start with our 10-6, and I'll try not to mute myself while I'm going through this. Sorry, guys. I'm about 48 minutes past my bedtime here. 10, we have Spring Lake. 9, Rochester Adams. 8, New Boston Huron. We have 7, Jenison, and 6, Hudsonville. We'll do some quick thoughts on these before I pull up the top 5.
Yeah, Spring Lake's really hot. 17-2. Went 4-1 last week, swept Unity Christian, and we had our West Side liaison, Coach Slaughter, on last week, who told us that Unity Christian was a really respectable opponent. So I think sweeping them is a really important thing. They lost the Saturday game, but 17-2 overall speaks for itself. 9, Rochester Adams, won a series over Stony Creek. Heard from Dan about what they were able to do against Grosse Pointe South. Really like Adams this year so far from what I've seen. 8, New Boston Huron. The cold weather bats curse strikes again. Not only did it strike the aforementioned Grosse Pointe South after we vaulted them up, it also struck New Boston Huron, who was undefeated and then went 3-2 last week. So they're 18-2 overall. Lost to Flat Rock with Mikey Drew on the mound, who's a really hard throwing, like 93-mile-an-hour ace for Flat Rock, and they split with Edison. Jenison and Hudsonville at 7-6. I've got not a whole lot to take away from the weeks they had. I do like that Hudsonville took 2 or 3 from a good Rockford team, and Jenison split with a good Grand Blanc team while taking 2 or 3 from Caledonia. The records aren't too great for Jenison's 11-4-1, which is solid, but Hudsonville still 15-3. So,
all right, we'll pull up our 5-1, and we'll get our thoughts. Coming in at 5, we have Forest Hills Eastern. 4th is Warren De La Salle, Griff's favorite team. Coming in at 3 is the Fighting Grease Bums, the Grosse Pointe South. Coming in at 2 is Macomb, Dakota, and holding still at number 1 is Bay City Western.
Yeah, yep. Fun times. There's a lot of parity in the state. I've said this 1,000 times this season. And so there's not a whole lot of difference in, I would say, like the 12th best team and the first best team. I think the state goes like 12 teams deep right now. The question is, can Saline, Sterling Heights, Stevenson, Dexter, West Bloomfield crack that? Byron Center even maybe crack that? Because right now I think the state kind of goes 12 deep. Past that, everyone's, I think, a second tier, but these top 12 teams are really all in the same tier, in my opinion. We'll start with Forest Hills Eastern. They're 19-1. They're 6-0, dominated Grand Rapids Christian. A couple other local teams went 6-0 in the week, 19-1 overall. We've seen this before from a Forest Hills team, and they've turned it into state championships in the past. And this is a team that looks like they could in Division. I think they're Division 2. If I might, I think they're the same as the other directional Forest Hills school. A lot of good players in that team. Brendan Thompson's a great player at shortstop for them. 4th, De La Salle, 16-4 overall. Going into this week, went 4-2 last week. Split with Rice, lost to Bloomfield Hills, swept U of D. Again, a team that's either split or won most of their series, or if not all of their series. I don't know overall, but I mean when they're playing them on a weekly basis. I know that the overall series with the Catholic League teams is based on, I think, 4, but in these weekly samples, they're almost always splitting or winning. And they're winning games and playing Samini ball, and it's like it's working, and it's working faster than we thought. We've talked about it before, kind of the same stuff. Number 3, Grosse Pointe South, 22-4 overall. Obviously came back down to earth last week, went 3-3, lost 2 to AB, lost 1 to Adams, got a couple wins in there as well. Still a really strong team. The 26 games played, and it's May 5th has a lot to do with this. To win at that much of a volume with a schedule they play that has no breaks at all. There's no breaks in this schedule at all. They're testing their depth. They're testing their lineup. They're testing their arms. I mean, it's commendable. It's hard to not rank highly. Macomb, Dakota, 18-4, awesome week. Swept and dominated Sterling Heights Stevenson, who was a top 10 team the whole year. Beat a really good Brother Rice team that's ranked in the top 12, which I still think there's only 12 teams in that tier 1. They beat one of them. They beat 2 of them, technically, with last week having swept Sterling Heights Stevenson despite falling out of that range now, and then swept Lake Orion, who's like a top 35 team probably. So just an awesome week from Dakota. We've had them up to 2 before, dropped them because there were some middling weeks, but they really recovered since then. Lastly, Bay City Western, who finally took a loss. Or I guess they had 1 loss going into this week, but took their second loss last week. They won their league games. They split with Grand Blanc. That was over the weekend. We will talk with Luke about that. I've given you everything you need to know about the other 4 teams. Luke, tell us a little bit about your team.
Yeah, so I was listening on the bus on the way back, and I'm hearing Blake talk about how those young guys are really trying to fit in and find their roles. And I think that's where we excel, is the experience that we have on our team. We're losing, I think 4 seniors from last year's team, having to replace our outfield and our catcher. But we've had young guys that step up, and the experience of them just being on the team last year even. I just feel like we all know our role, and we were able to find it pretty early, and it's staying true throughout the season right now. And, and it's knowing your role, but it's also having to fill in spots where you might not be comfortable. But I think that the experience that we have of being a top team these past 2 years is definitely pushing us to still be our best. And it's been fun to play this year. And I think that's a credit to the culture that's built at Bay City Western with Coach Mack and all the coaches on the staff, where it's having to find your role and to really know your job and not try to do too much, but also push others to be their best and just show up when your name's called. So that's why I think it was funny hearing Blake say that with those younger guys, but I think we've been able to step up and do that. I think we're also very talented. Our pitching staff's awesome. We have 4, 5, 6, 7 guys that is going to go out there and throw strikes and fill the zone up. And there's the velocity and the spin and everything there. And I think we're a tough team to beat when we're at our best. So, and going back to what we were talking about earlier is our small ball. That's another thing where we're not just a team that's going to mash every baseball and hit the best pitching. We're going to find ways to score runs in tight games. And that's just the way we're built. It's going to help us, I think, towards the playoffs when you need to scratch your under 2 across and a tight game and where there's a lot of pressure. So I think just working on that in the regular season and preparing yourself like that for when the playoffs comes, it just makes it that much easier. So just the experience and all that. It's been fun this year. Obviously, we had a few splits these past few weeks. We faced some good pitching, but I think that's just going to help us later when we're going to be facing guys in the playoffs that can really bring it. So I'm excited for the rest of the year. We have a great group of guys, and it should be fun.
All right. Well, that's it for the Super 25 this week. That wraps us up. I know it was a little bit of a long bleed with the rankings having to get fixed there last minute, but made it through it and made it happen. And I think we got through it fast enough. Appreciate everyone coming on again this week. Our 2 guests.
Hey, nice shot, BJ. Nice shot, man.
Way to get it done.
You got it done.
Thank you. I will sleep much better with that moment happening, so I appreciate that. I want to thank Blake and Luke for coming on. You guys are both obviously have bright futures ahead of you, so I'm sure we'll speak to you or about you in between now and the end of the month for sure, especially once we hit June and beyond with the draft and all of that and college, etc. And then, of course, appreciate Rubes, Griff, and Dan. Thanks for holding it down while I got that done. I appreciate it. You guys did great at what was more or less a riff. Other than that, that's all I got. I appreciate it. Mike, you can close us out.
Yeah, I mean, guys, I appreciate you all taking some time this evening. We got off a little bit behind due to some fun stuff, but
go Bears, though. It was because the Bears won. It was because the Bears came back down 5-2, bottom 7 against AP. First time sweeping them in like 9 years. That's why, and that's okay. So I appreciate everyone.
Congratulations
with me there. Thank you.
With that said,
let's go.
I'd like to also thank we're pushing about 400 at this minute on all of our platforms. So if you're on one platform, not subscribed on the other, well, here you go on your screen here. Find us on all of them. We are trying to kick off really some on our YouTube and our TikToks. So if you haven't followed us there, really, what are you waiting for? Get on over there and do so. And then if you haven't yet found us on Patreon, be sure to do so. We just had a new post that came out a little bit earlier today. We are running posts on some daily basis. Tuesdays, we have our Tip Tuesday that is produced. I believe tomorrow Brandon's going to have a good old tip to help you win and beat those other schools in your region, in your area. So be on the lookout for that one, and that'll come out tomorrow as well. With that said, any last remarks from whether it's the kids, anyone else on your Griff? We got the hat back on.
The hat had to come back on. Luke missed the first half. Okay, he was traveling. The hat came back on, and we're feeling electric in this.
Well, it's great. Griff's been so patient; he hasn't touched any of the eggs and sausage and whatever else he made.
He inhaled that a while ago.
He must have been shoveling that when the rankings were up.
When Ruby said, "Hey, we're going 1 through 10," I was like,
yeah, there we go.
I was a problem down there.
Perfect.
What a way to end it. What a way to end it.
Awesome.
Well, Blake, thank you. Thanks, Luke and Blake. I selfishly, I hope to see both of you in East Lansing in mid-June, and I know that you both your teams have a great chance, and you're both coached by tremendous ex-CMU Chippewas, so I know that's quite a brain trust at both of those schools for sure.
Hey, I appreciate it again. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Hey, are we going there live coverage?
Hey, we gotta see. You never know.
I'm kind of down. We'll leave that up for the people.
I'm just saying, don't count the Bears. I'm
Are you
coach
some hash? Some.
What'd you say?
I said, are you gonna cook some? Are you gonna cook some there?
Bro, I'll bring the Blackstone. You want me grilling with the boys?
Only
for
if
the boys after the game, dude. I'll get all the parents going.
Let's go. I'll pay for.
Hey,
we're gonna get a segment on Bald Banter. That's Blackstone cooking with Griff.
Dude, it's gonna be me, Blake, and Jelly, and we're just gonna be sitting there just chopping it up. Oh, dude, absolutely wow. Luke, you can come too. You gotta go full uni though.
Yeah,
full uni.
Perfect. I'll come full dressed.
that uniform. This is not as bad as Griff's situation with Samini, but seeing Luke in that uniform gives me a little bit of the yips as well, because they beat us in the 2014 state championship game, and that was the one and only back-to-back championship in the history of Division I baseball. Was Bay City Western 2013 and 14. But
Right,
that
baby.
that's a good program in Bay City.
Oh yeah, love the yellows.
Right.
Yellows are clean.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, as we've been doing these on a weekly basis, we will discuss if we're going to have one on Sunday. For those of you that are unaware, Sunday is Mother's Day. So we will talk as a group. Griff, now you know. We'll talk as a group, and we'll figure out when our next one will be. Stay tuned on all of our social medias, and to all of those across the state of Michigan, good luck this week, and we will talk to you next time.